Hi guys, welcome back to a new video. Happy Friday, and I hope you guys had a good week this week. Last video, so last week Friday, I took you guys through some of my routine of what I would do on a daily basis when I started to recover from my existential anxiety, from my DPDR, from my panic attacks. And part of that was that I went, or like part of how I kind of was like framing that narrative was me also going back to my journal and reading some of the prompts that I wrote when I was going through it. And it made me very emotional last week. And I actually set the intention to make a video about reading these journal entries for you guys this week. Um, I'm really, really looking forward to this. I don't know how long this video is going to be because I'm just kind of going to be browsing through my journal from when I was really going through it. One thing that I noticed was that as I was journaling, and this is something, so a quick background story. So when I was 17, I struggled with really bad depression and eating disorder. And the thing that got me out of that was me going to a program in the Netherlands that taught me how to reprogram my subconscious mind. So all of our emotions, all of our thoughts, our beliefs come from our subconscious mind. And so how we feel often comes from what is in that subconscious, what we believe is true, our trauma, our emotional patterns, all of that. And so I already had a kind of background knowing how to deal with difficult emotions. And that really also helped me getting through my existential crisis a lot because even though the whole part of like there's two things that really helped me with my recovery. It's like the subconscious reprogramming of your subconscious mind, and then also everything to do with acceptance, Buddhism, meditation, surrendering, letting go, all of that stuff. And so that was all the new stuff that I learned as I went along the journey, and the subconscious reprogramming stuff I already knew because I already recovered from a depression that was really bad and an eating disorder, which are two things that are really hard to get rid of. But I successfully was able to do based on the tools that I learned in that training. And those are also tools that I teach in sessions and in my courses and stuff like that. So, a lot of what I learned in this first program was that how important positive affirmation is. So, how important it is to focus on the good and to focus on what is good and what is positive, not in a toxic positivity way of ignoring all the negative, but more constantly reframing how you look at things. So, seeing challenges as positive opportunities or um, seeing an emotion as something that's trying to teach you something and just reframing it into the positive while at the same time also really emphasizing gratefulness for things that you do have. And so I recognized so much in this journal in the beginning that I just did not allow myself to write down like the dreadful thoughts that were in my head because actually I remember writing these journal entries. I remember it so vividly. And I remember I felt so terrible, but I was just trying so hard to focus on the positive, and I'll read through that, and I hope you guys can kind of see what I mean. Um, so I'm gonna read some entries that I wrote, and also write like read the dates out loud, and yeah, let's see how it evolves. So my first entry is this 22nd of July 2019. And so this was probably about a month in, or like a few weeks in to my existential dread, my dissociation. I think this is when I first started to try to journal or find some type of way out. I've made a video in the past about like the different stages of recovery, and the first stage is just complete dread and doom, and there's just nothing you can do to feel better. So I think like this was like the stage when I was like, all right, I have to try something. Okay, so here it goes, the first journal entry. It's in Dutch, so I have to translate on the go. It's summertime, and I'm sitting at the church at the exact same spot as when I had a conversation with my dad 4 years ago. Wow, 4 years ago already. It just seems like yesterday. I'd come to the realization back then that my depression was only a perspective on the world and that a whole other perspective is possible and much more desirable. The choice to the choice to set your thoughts in the way that they are helpful for me and for you in order to choose happiness. The world around me was still exactly the same as it is now, but I no, the world around me was still exactly the same as before, but I suddenly looked at it very differently, allowing me to see the world and feel it in a new way. Now I'm sitting here again 4 years later with another sort of conflict and another sort of perspective on the world. The way I'm looking at the world right now is unhelpful and it's making me terrified. Just like then, I can change my perspective and look at things another way again with the same facts. I'll do this. Just 1 second. Um, this I do again by focusing on the new perspective in the here and now, which is good and beautiful. All right, so good intention here and beautiful entry, but sadly it did not work, and I'll tell you guys why it worked in a second. So then I go on to this whole pages of stating down like perspectives and facts, trying to convince my mind that the world wasn't evil. And although some of the things that I wrote down are true and I now feel are true, I could not connect to them in that moment because I was so terrified. I was so afraid. I was in such need of control that these affirmations or these thoughts kind of just felt like I was repeating them in here, but I wasn't really feeling them. So some of the things I wrote are, and this is more like the challenging part. So I wrote, the world is so incredibly mysterious that it terrifies me. It makes me think so much, but there's no answers to be found. And then I reframe that to the questions are there to be asked, but not to be answered. The unanswerable questions are exactly that which is what makes life so beautiful, so precious, and so meaningful. They give us perspective and direction. Again, such a beautiful thing to write, but I just did not feel it at the time. So I think I remember this moment. I was so, so scared, and I was just trying to find things to focus on, to hold on to. And it was working a little bit because I think at that time I just had to go through it a little bit more. Then I write, why do these questions bother me so much? Because everything seems too good to be true. But it is true that as long as I live, that life is not going to change. And if I don't live, there's no world anymore. I don't know what I meant with that. But then I wrote another set of affirmations. And then blah blah blah. Also, I have to ask less questions about why and just enjoy that. Because it's the why that I will never know. I will only know that. And then I write, I let go, which I very much did not do. um, so my conclusion on this first journal prompt, or like what I remember from it, is that my intention was so good, but it was only coming from here. I remember I lived at the time, I lived very much in my head. I was just thinking so much, a way out of my existential dread, a way out of my disconnection. The more I thought, the more I realized how confused I was and the more disconnected I actually felt. So the next journal prompt is actually when I did a subconscious reprogramming exercise. So I'm not going to explain it all to you because it's too complicated, but um, I kind of wrote down an exercise from that training that I did and tried to reframe and reprogram more emotionally. And so I'm journaling about that, and then I have a reflection on it. And so positive progress. Today I had existential fear, and also yesterday. I felt so powerless and helpless, which is why I actually felt even more anxiety. Then I remembered suddenly that I should do a subconscious reprogramming exercise because these feelings are not helpful for me. I went through the course of the training that I did and reframed the passive unhelpful beliefs I had to active helpful beliefs. Then I did another exercise in which I stopped my fear and desired to feel more peace and safety. The rest of the night, I did not have any fear anymore. I laughed with my sister. I made granola, and now I'm in the couch enjoying a peaceful moment. That's very nice. I don't remember this, but I can connect to the idea that this is something that helped me. Um, all right, let's see what we have here. We are now in August. So like somewhere like the 18th of August, so a month later. Today I had a lot of fear again, but most of all, I was in resistance and fighting my fear. And I noticed that it even made me more anxious and more detached. After I called my friend to talk about it, she told me that I should try and make peace with the fear and allow it and actually face it instead of fight it. I did, and it felt such a relief and like I could breathe again. From that moment on, I did not feel fear anymore, and now I actually feel really quiet, peaceful, and happy. I'm grateful for my friend and her wise words and help. And I also thank the universe for the podcast that I asked for and I received. I will listen to it tomorrow when I'm running. Okay, now this is where things start to shift because as you guys can read or listen, this is where I started to practice acceptance. And I remember this podcast so vividly. In fact, I think I've listened to it 20 times. It's called Belief Creates Reality. It's on Spotify, and it's a podcast from Oprah Super Soul with Deepak Chopra. And I listened to it. And so the 2 days after, this is a quick journal prompt that I wrote. I thank the universe again for the amazing podcast that I received. This taught me a kind of meditative practice in which I can turn deeply within myself and actually find peace within myself, irrespective of the world around me. I already had 2 good days now, for which I'm really grateful. And this is what makes me sad. And I also allow the feeling of um, I also allow the feeling of unpresentness and fog in more, which also gives me peace. Now, the reason why I'm emotional is because I had no idea what DPDR was at the time. And I remember that whenever I would dissociate or derealize or depersonalize, that I had described it as feeling absent or feeling foggy. Um, and I'm so happy actually that I never discovered what it was because I think if I would have researched it, my OCD would have latched onto it completely. So I just kept calling it like a feeling of lack of presence and fogginess, um, which it just makes me emotional because I feel so much love for that girl who was going through that because she just had no idea what was going on and she was just trying so hard to navigate everything on her own. And she did navigate it on her own, and she's so powerful for that. But still, like when I read the description of DPDR and just not knowing what it is, it just makes me feel so. I just want to give her a hug, tell her that everything's going to be so okay and she's doing so amazing. And then I finish off with the world is beautiful, the world is good. So this is like where it starts to turn more positive. And this is, I think, when I started listening to spiritual podcasts and to like Buddhist talks and stuff like that, is when I really started to feel the power of acceptance and the power of just surrendering. Um, and I remember that that's when things started to shift for me. So this is like 2 months after my first panic attack, and this is where I first really started feeling better. Then I have a really long journal entry. I don't know if I'm gonna read it because I don't want to bore you guys, but I'll quickly skim through it and just see because I think we're actually almost at the end. All right. Today was a pretty good day. I woke up and went for a run for half an hour. in the beginning it went a little difficult. In the beginning I was feeling a bit difficult, but then I listened to the Oprah podcast with Brené Brown, and then the time went fast. It was really nice, and I felt a little bit, again, I felt a little bit of the absent feeling, which is DPDR. um, but I was able to enjoy the sun a little bit. Then I went to work in the chocolate company, this coffee shop I was working at the time. I learned a lot, and the day went really fast and well because it was quite busy. I also enjoyed a really nice cappuccino and a chai latte and a chocolate truffle. I'm really grateful that I don't work in the restaurant anymore and that I have a really fun new job now. The work atmosphere is very nice and the work itself is super. I get to make people coffee and food and bring it to them. Um, da-da-dum. Sunday, I'm going to work in another coffee shop again, which I also really like. This was in the summer, so I was doing a lot of like summer jobs, and this was really helping me too. Like I said last video, because I was really focusing on the task of working, which took my mind off of things as well. Then I ate lunch, went to PJ, a friend of mine, where I chilled for an hour, and then I went to the shoe store to find black shoes that I didn't find. Then I went to the supermarket for dinner, ran into my friend, other friend, and I decided to have dinner with her on Saturday. Then a bit later, I described, I often feel down a lot after dinner. I notice that I still do not feel quite good with silence around me because I'm afraid of being alone with my thoughts, but that's okay. I can enjoy the peace, the quiet, and the sweetness of doing nothing. I'm allowed to be here. I'm worthy. I had a really nice day and I'm excited for tomorrow. So this is like I remember that, and it actually took me a really long time to get through not feeling safe in the evenings because I was alone a lot, and that's when I was most with my thoughts and kind of the emotions that you're running away from during the day, like being busy with work and stuff, kind of hit you in the face. And that was before I learned about meditation. So that's when I was still really struggling, not really knowing how to deal with those emotions. So yeah. And then I have another journal entry where I talk about that I had a really big panic attack that I was grateful for because it led me to a really nice conversation with my dad. He told me that he used to have those types of fear before, that it is normal, and that I'm having this because I'm at an important point of my life that I have to make big choices. I also grew up really quickly, which which meant that I was already struggling with big life questions when I was young. My dad told me that I would ask questions about the sky and the universe when I was only 5 years old. Hmm. I have to allow myself the rest and time to see that I don't have to find meaning in life in the big, intense life changing experiences, such as big travels or big moments that I think life is about. In fact, it's about the little things, the moments in which I sit with family and friends. I have been so lucky the last couple of years and months to I don't know, I've always looked for my happiness the last years in very big and far things and places that I forgot how to enjoy the small little moments in the here and now, which is what life is all about. The feeling I have now will pass. The life cannot always be good, and you can't always be happy. The journey in my head is allowed to be here, and I have to give myself a rest. Mm. So yeah, I don't know, pretty random journal entries. But I think the conclusion of this for me, I used to be really, really intense. Sometimes I still can be, which meant that the years before I went through my existential crisis and my anxiety, I wasn't really feeling I wasn't really feeling unhappy, but I would find my happiness in ridiculous things. Like I would travel constantly to like very far places, which I'm still grateful I did. But it would always have to be intensity for me in order to feel good. So I would have to like have like parties to look forward to, or I have to travel to big places, or I would in relation like my relationships would be very, very intense because I just thought I needed that intensity in order to feel content. And I think when I graduated from my bachelor's is when I kind of had this wake up call of I have to start working at one point. I have to start living a serious life. And I just thought like my life is over. I'm not going to be happy anymore. And that also contributed to this fear that I had of like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life? And not that that was the only one that triggered my existential dread, but it was something that really like came along with it. And I think I started realizing at this stage, which this is like end of August, September, I started to really realize how I'm allowed to be content with the little things and zoom in on those and find meaning in those instead of always needing to find this big meaning or this big intense happiness from traveling or having such a big impact on the world in any way. Like I realized that impact and meaning is in the little things, like the conversation I had with my dad, just sitting and listening to each other. All right. Then I have two more entries and then we're actually done. Then I stopped writing, so that's when I probably was doing a lot better. So, 1st of September. Today was a good day, a day full of meaningful thinking and enjoying. Also, a little bit of struggle, a little bit of absence feeling, but especially peace and love. I had joy in the conversations with my friends and my mom and my dad. Um, I have great friends that always are with me in my darker periods, and I'm really grateful for them. I also feel a bit more connection with my dad because I've been having really good conversations with him, and he's made me feel really loved, strong, and smart. With my mom, I had a nice pizza, we watched a movie, and I drank a glass of wine. I also had my peace today by drawing, listening to music, and running. It really was a really nice day. The meaning of life is to always positively influence life around you with love and come in contact with people by touching their hearts. That's how we build to a future that will continue to be more positive, loving, and where there's more and more harmony. How do I know right now that what is good is good? Because I feel in my heart that good is better than evil and that I want to contribute to a positive force of harmony and love. Wow. Yeah, again, really, I started feeling, and this is something I think about a lot. Um, Sometimes I really miss this journey that I went through because, sorry, I wish I had a tissue. I don't. I'm almost done. But sometimes I really miss this whole journey I went through because it made me in such close contact to life. I always talk about how I don't think I ever felt more alive than when I went through my existential crisis. Even though I felt really dissociated at the same time, I was so present in trying to choose my mindset and trying to choose my perspective on life. And it felt so good and I started to truly learn what life was about in this stage of my life. Like I would have never been the person that I am today, feeling happy with little things, having so much love in my life, and um, doing what I love the most, which is talking to you guys and helping people. I would have never been able to do that if I did not go through what I went through. And I'm so eternally grateful for my DPDR and for everything that came with it because it was like my transformation phase, I think. So the last journal prompt that I've written here is when I remember I found the book Fear by Thich Nhat Hanh, which is when I started really learning about meditation. And so I first start off with like writing notes from his book. So like affirmations and thoughts that really helped me. Um, I can't really, I don't know if I write it down, it's gonna make sense. But then the last journal prompt that I write is very short. I feel a really strong and powerful internal shift. I'm noticing that the meditations, books, and podcasts have brought me to a higher level in which I am actually transforming my fear. I feel so much more connected to the universe, and I'm so grateful for everything. I realize now that what I have to do is not run away from my fear anymore. My fear is a part of me that is trying to protect me, and I want to give it all the love it deserves. I'm grateful for my family, my mom, my dad, my sister, my little room in Leuven, the place that is really completely mine, my friends, the opportunity of being able to study in my homemade granola. And the next journal prompt is during COVID, so like 2 years later. It's possible that I had another journal that I forgot about or lost, but yeah, that's it. It's not really coherent and it's very much like little bits and pieces here and there. But it was so nice to read it back again. And I I want to encourage you guys to open yourself up to the possibility of getting to that place one day where you can read your old journals again and think, wow, I struggled so badly, but I did it so well, and I'm so proud of myself. And I am so proud of every single one of you who's watching this video, who's working on themselves, who is wanting to do life a different way. You deserve so much love, you deserve so much happiness, and happiness is meant for you and it is within you, I promise. Thank you so much for watching today. I will see you guys next week. Bye.